In today's episode, I'm talking to Gloria Chow, where we are talking all things PR. And I feel like this is a PR masterclass. You're going to learn where you need to be pitching, what tools you need to use to really support you in finding the right outlets, tools to support you in the pitch, how to find local media, mistakes to avoid, timelines on pitching. I mean, I'm not kidding. This really is a masterclass in PR. And I strongly feel that listeners of this podcast who take action are going to get featured in the press, which is free. We talk about this in the beginning of the episode, how PR can be better than social media and working with influencers and even paid ads, and is free for you. So I want you to take action on today's episode. This could be a game changer for your store. While we were filming, I wanted to be taking notes because Gloria drops so many tactical things that you can implement and tools. So you're probably going to want to take some notes in today's episode. Of course, we linked everything that was mentioned in the show notes as well. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about Gloria. Gloria Chow is a former U.S. diplomat turned award-winning PR strategist and podcast host known for her untraditional yet proven approach to PR, which makes visibility and media accessible for everyone. Gloria helps Black, Indigenous, people of color, and women of color founders get featured organically in top-tier media without needing PR connections or a large following, and has earned small businesses in every industry niche over 1 billion organic views and features in outlets like the New York Times, Oprah's Favorite Things, Vogue, and Forbes without any pay to play. This was such an awesome conversation. I'm really happy to have it on the show. And because you are a podcast listener, you should also go listen to Gloria's podcast, which is Small Business PR Podcast by Gloria Chow. Be sure to subscribe and listen to that one. I know I will be too, because I got so much out of this as well, being a small business owner. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Gloria, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Thanks for having me, Crystal.
This is going to be a much needed conversation because, like I mentioned before we hit record, we haven't talked about PR very much on the show. And I see a lot of potential for our retailers with PR. These are so things that our listeners can do. And so I'm very excited for them to learn from you today. But before we dive in, will you just share a little bit about you and your experience in the PR world?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Gloria Chow. I'm actually not your typical PR gal. And the reason is because I've never worked a day in my life in any PR or marketing agency. I really believe that PR is ripe for disruption. It's been a very gate-kept industry. And I actually used to be a U.S. diplomat before this. And when I tried to transition into PR, I think I sent out 1,000 job requests and nobody would hire me because they wanted very specific agency experience. And that's when I realized, like, wow, this is a very traditional way of doing things. But here's the thing, 95% of small business owners and makers and retailers probably can't afford PR retainers. And so who's looking out for them? How do they get featured? Because PR is one of the most leveraged ways that you can do your marketing. It gives you SEO backlinks. It positions you as an authority. It gives you that credibility and at the same time driving traffic and sales. So I don't think that we should just accept that, like, oh, well, if I can't do PR the traditional way, therefore I don't get featured. There's got to be a different way. So I'm excited to dive into how we can make PR accessible. How can we use free tools that are out there to connect with journalists? And yes, journalists are looking for new brands and stores to feature all the time. So we're actually doing them a favor. And then how do we implement this as a system inside of our business?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for this. And I do think that a lot of us store owners and retailers think to exactly what you said. I can't afford a PR agency. I can't participate in PR. And when I first started in my career, we were working for a startup technology company and we hired a PR agency out of New York City. It was a $5,000 a month retainer, which was a lot of money for our startup. And I was like, you're paying them more than you pay me. I'm going to prove that I can get more press using social media. And this is back in 2007, 2008. So social was like really new back then. It was way better than what the PR agency did for us. And we ended up firing them. And that was sort of how my social media career began, which I never shared that stuff on the show. But that's where I'm just like, I'm such a believer of what you're talking about. You don't have to have the big retainer. So let's get into it, Gloria. You say that organic PR can outperform social, influencers, and even paid ads. Why is that, especially for indie retailers?
Yeah, I always say that marketing is you talking about you, right? So that's ads, social, but PR is your industry talking about you. And I think especially if we're in a saturated marketplace, how do we distinguish ourselves? How do we get found? How do we get found on search? There's no other marketing activity that can give you those SEO backlinks. And in the age of AI, where you can write 60 different blogs, right? Google is actually prioritizing backlinks. So that means getting featured, right? Getting in a podcast. Those actually tell the Google search engine to push you higher up in the search results than typing out 50 different blogs on ChatGPT, right? So we know that for a fact. So if I'm a retailer, how do I simultaneously check all those boxes of credibility, traffic, sales? PR is the only one that gets you all of those. And so I think that we've just been conditioned to do social media, do ads. But if we really think about it, are we really leveraging our time properly? We know that the algorithm is actually downgrading a lot of our posts. They don't want our people to see our posts. I read somewhere like 18% of our audience see our post. So it's really an uphill battle. They want you to pay for ads. And so it's like, how do we do something where we own that content and we can drive it into like a system? And that's what PR is. It's not about how you're feeling today or tomorrow or what the algorithm thinks. It's just about how do I connect myself with journalists and magazines who are already featuring, gift guides and places to shop. And once you know how to find the journalist and how to position yourself, then you can keep repeating it every season. And it's not just the Q4 gift guides. There are gift guides and opportunities to shop all year round for him, for her, for graduation, for Easter, for Valentine's Day. I could go on and on. And so I think we need to first realize that there absolutely is a year-round opportunity for retailers to get featured. And I can absolutely do this without hiring an agency and without knowing the journalist, because a journalist is depending on us to write about new and fresh stories. Think about it this way. If the journalist only covered Fortune 500 big box brands, probably would be really uninteresting. Like, people want not more of the same. They want to discover new stories from mom and pop retailers doing important things and curating important things. So how do we do that? We're actually doing them a favor by telling them, hey, we are here for people who are looking for this solution. We are here. And so that's really what we're doing. It's kind of a cooperative relationship with the journalist. We're simply saying, hey, we know that your audience is looking for X, Y, and Z, and they can find it through us.
Yeah. It's such a good mindset shift, because we can feel like if I'm pitching myself, I am an inconvenience. But man, the community stories, the independent stories, those often have a lot more heart and storytelling in them than big bucks anyways. And to your point, journalists want that uniqueness and want those stories. For any of our listeners that don't know what a backlink is and why they're important, will you break that down?
Yeah. So SEO, right? Search engine optimization. When people are searching for things on the internet, what tells Google to push your website higher or lower? And so it's really based on how many backlinks and your domain authority, right? And so one way to increase your searchability or domain authority is to be featured on a gift guide or a magazine, which then directly links back to your website. So that's what we mean by backlinks. And it's a really powerful way to get the Google algorithm machine, when they're crawling the internet, to say, oh, if you're looking for best Harry Potter things for animation fans, that if you have those backlinks because you've been featured, you would come up much earlier in search results for people.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you for that explanation. And then you also mentioned leveraging AI to write 50, 60 blog posts to get that content out there, because we now have these tools that can speed up our time. I'm curious, from using AI, do you have like a tip or two on best practices for using AI to write these blog posts? One of the things that I hear somebody saying is, but it won't sound like me, or will I be in trouble because it's AI and not written by a human, especially at that volume of doing that many blog posts? Can you just speak to that aspect a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually don't recommend you do that, because Google is very smart, and it will know exactly that it's just like AI garbage, right? And so that's why getting those organic backlinks, getting featured in the media is a much higher indicator of your domain authority to a search engine like Google than writing 60 blogs. But I do have a couple of tips on how to use AI to connect with journalists, right? So if you're starting out, just know that PR is actually really simple. It's writing a relevant pitch and sending it to the right person. And if you can put the two and two together, you can create a system to repeat that in your business. Now, notice how I said write a relevant pitch, not a newsworthy pitch. I don't believe there's such a thing as a newsworthy person or brand or store. There's people who sell toilet paper and fidget spinners and they get featured. So it's really about the relevancy. And we can touch upon that later, but let's talk about who to send it to. Now, it's not going to be info at New York Times or media at BuzzFeed. It's going to be the specific writer for that beat or that story. Now, a lot of times when you are looking at journalists on Instagram, or maybe you see an article, if they have the word commerce or shopping in their bio, so associate commerce editor or shopping writer, those are the people you want to connect with because these are the writers who are in the position of recommending products to their people. So a lot of the things that's like, oh, we tested the 5 best skin oils. Those are usually shopping writers. Or like, oh, I packed 3 weeks worth of vacation in this travel bag and here are my recommendations. Those are the types of people that you want to find. So you might be asking, well, how do I find these journalists? So there are many free tools you can use. My favorite one as of late is called publicity.ai. It's a AI search engine that's way more powerful than Google. It's actually replaced my Google. And so unlike ChatGPT, which kind of is a jack of all trades, Perplexity is a research tool that scrapes the internet and then gives you the best cumulative answer. So for example, if you have something that's home goods and everything is under $150, you might type in there, hey, I specialize in home goods under $150 for eco-friendly, non-toxic homes. What are some of the gift guide categories I can qualify for? Boom, it'll give you some answers. And then you can keep asking it questions like, okay, out of these buckets of gift guide categories, which magazines or outlets publish these every single year? And they might tell you apartment therapy or home and garden, right? And so you can start to have a conversation with it and create your media list, if you will, of all the outlets and journalists who are writing this. You can even ask, well, in home and garden and apartment therapy, who are the commerce writers who actually write these gift guides? You can come up with your media list. That's the first tip is perplexity.ai.
Awesome.
The second tip is to sign up for these free websites like Haro, which stands for Help a Reporter Out, or sourceofsources.com. So Haro and Source of Sources are these websites where you can sign up to be a source. And every day you get emails of all the different journalists looking to interview someone. Now, it might not all fit your category. Sometimes it's personal finance. Sometimes it's a dog trainer. But time to time, they will have things for retailers, whether it's, tell me how you're dealing with the tariffs, or we are looking for a retailer in the New England area, whatever that is. And if it does fit you, they tell you their actual email and the deadline and exactly how to respond. So it's really effortless. You just kind of reply with what they're asking. We had someone in our program get featured in Forbes 2 weeks ago just by responding to this. And this is free, by the way. So that's Haro and Source of Sources. The third one, which is a gold mine for finding journalists, is Substack. So Substack is a blogging platform. And a lot of these freelance writers who write for many different outlets are using Substack to amass a followership. And so they are writing every day, here's what I'm writing for home and garden. Here's what I'm tasked with for apartment therapy. Here's what I'm writing for and they tell you exactly the price point. They tell you exactly what their email is and the deadline. So that's another way to know exactly who they're writing for. And it's as easy as you responding. So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is, using social media. So you can follow journalists on hashtags like journal request, or you can do hashtags and find journalists on LinkedIn who write about retail and the state of small business. So there's all of these free tools that are available for you that you can leverage right now to connect with journalists.
Amazing. We love free tools. And I've used some of these that you are mentioning, and some of these are new to me. So I'm really excited to check those out. Help a Reporter Out, Haro. I remember when Peter Shankman started this back in 2008, or this was around the time of the PR agency that we hired. And I was on his feed, and anyone listening, that you sign up for this newsletter and you just scroll the headlines to see if you are good for the article. So it makes it really easy to be like, okay, real quick, it can just take a minute or two. Does it make sense for me? But imagine if you get picked up in Better Homes and Garden like that, then you leverage. There's that whole other side of leveraging the PR that you get listed in. Gloria, have you heard of Quoted?
Yeah, Quoted is okay. I mean, they do want you to pay. So they give you a limited number of, I think after you have 4 or 5, then they ask you to pay for it. So you can definitely use Quoted as well.
Okay, got it. Awesome. Such great tips. I love it. Okay, so let's say that one of our listeners has no PR experience. They just have not gone down this path. How can they pitch themselves to media and actually get noticed?
Yeah. So we talked about the two parts of PR, right? It's writing a relevant pitch and sending it to the right person. I gave you 4 or 5 free tools that you can see who to send it to. Now let's talk about what to write. And this is a radical act. This is an uncomfortable act because no one teaches us this in high school and grad school. So don't worry if this is very daunting for you. We all start somewhere, right? And here's the thing. We are really good at, as CEOs, as founders, as retailers, to talk about our benefits and features. But the journalist is not going to buy from you. And so we have to take off our marketing hat, which we're so good at, and really talk about things in a relevant way. What does that mean? It means that instead of, who you're serving, your benefits and features, what is the season? What are people looking for? If it's spring and summer, they're looking for fresh, fun, and fruity. If you do something that is in food and wine, you're probably going to not recommend some hot chocolate thing in the summertime, right? So we need to figure out what is the relevancy of what customers are looking for today. Maybe there's a pop culture relevance, whether it's Harry Potter, or it's Beyonce's tour, or it's a White Lotus. So think about the pop culture trends. There's also a lot of things on TikTok. So what are some viral TikTok trends that are happening? I'll give you an example. We have someone who makes macaroons. She's based in Vermont, and she uses all local ingredients. And so the pitch I wrote for her was about this hashtag on TikTok called Little Treat Culture. And it was about the little indulgences that we can do for ourselves after a long work day, whether it's a little treat or a little guilt-free pleasure. And so do you see how I'm writing on the coattails of a trend, whether that's pop culture or something that has virality, or, maybe what a Fortune 500 company is doing, right? One of my favorite pitches is about how these big box stores are basically walking back on their promises for customer service and how you're actually doing much better. So that's kind of a contrarian point of view. I like that too. I also like something with third-party data and statistics. So you can say something like, now the average shipping for whatever Amazon is like 5 to 10 days, but we offer free shipping for everyone, right? So something like that. And you don't have to be a data scientist. You can just use Instagram and do a poll on your Instagram to see if you have any original data. So it's kind of like all the different angles that you can pick. But the point is that you don't want to pitch your benefits and features. You always want to narrow the scope of time of what you're pitching for, whether it's graduation, whether it's summer, and that's where you start. I always say to my PR students that a good pitch is 2 things. It's relevant and it's specific. So if your pitch works for 5 years in the future or 5 years in the past, keep chipping away at it until it gets super narrow in scope.
Okay, that helps because it feels like, what do I even talk about? What's even special about me? Like, where do I even begin? And if we just focus on time of year, and retail is so timely, and just really those trends and what's hot now and how can you plug in and that is relevant to you, it makes it feel very doable. I love it. Okay, now what are some of the biggest mistakes retailers make when trying to get press and how can they fix them?
Yeah, I think that this, so I want to talk about my CPR pitching method, which is the anatomy of the pitch. And it helps you orientate to say the right things and not go on and on and on and on and on, right? So you have to make it concise. Do not attach your unpublished autobiography. Do not attach your brochure. It'll trigger the spam filter. So what I've learned from years of cold pitching, and by the way, I've never worked in a PR agency, so I had to literally Google newsroom, New York Times, and pick up the phone with sweaty hands and cold pitch thousands of times and get rejected until I figured out a formula of what works. And so that is my CPR framework. So CPR stands for credibility, point of view, and relevance. Those are the 3 golden pieces of a pitch, whether it's written, verbal, or what have you. So the email usually starts like this, the subject line, right? The subject line is important. It's what gets it open. You don't want to put your name, your company name, product, or the word pitch in it. It's wasting real estate. You want the subject line to almost read like an article title, right? For example, best places to get gourmet French delicatessen, free shipping, whatever, right? So that is like an actual article title. It's specific. It's telling the journalist exactly what it is. And then when you start off the email, don't waste your time with pleasantries. What you want to do instead is just to get right into the relevance, which is the R in CPR. So you can say something like, France has seen an increase of 500% in tourism this year, mainly because of its whatever cheese season, right? So as people are looking for hand-churned butter and dairy, but don't want to go to France, here's why our e-commerce store, our retailers is perfect. And then P in CPR stands for point of view. So those are 3 bullet points that then follows the relevancy that you've already set up really nicely. And then you can just conclude with maybe like 1 or 2 photos and then a hyperlink to find out more about us. You want to put in the website where people can find you, the average price point, and shipping details. You might also say this is also found on Amazon or at whatever Nordstrom's. Like, tell people where it's found. And then just do hyperlinks, but don't do lots of attachments. That's going to, again, trigger their spam filter. And contact details and where they can find you. If you do want to offer samples, you can offer that as well. So that's the anatomy of a tight and concise pitch.
Beautiful. I'm sitting here being like, I want to take notes. I want to take notes. And then I'm like, I can listen to the replay. I don't need to take notes while we're doing this. It's so good. And of course, retailers can use AI to help them write the subject line and the body to kind of flesh that out, right? Do you encourage that?
Yeah, so I will say that if you start with AI, it doesn't really have the relevancy because AI is not really tapped into like what's happening right now, right? What you can do is use Perplexity with ChatGPT. So I wrote someone's pitch recently and it was about, social media trends, and social media trends are always changing. So you can, like, for example, if you make, fitness equipment, or if you have like a store that sells Pilates stuff, you might put in Perplexity, like, what are the trends in home gym and low impact exercises in 2025 or 2026? And then it'll give you the trends. And from there, you can have a dialogue with it and pick 3 or 4 really interesting trends. And then you can then put it into ChatGPT. But you don't want to start with ChatGPT because it really doesn't have a sense of like what's happening now. It doesn't have a pulse on what consumers want. And that's where Perplexity AI comes in. So I kind of use both. Now, obviously, I recommend all the people listening to this to watch my free PR training. It goes way more into depth about a CPR pitch. I actually show you a screenshot, word for word, a CPR pitch from start to finish. So you can kind of marinate it a little bit more. We don't have time on this podcast, but you can go to gloriachowpr.com/masterclass. That's completely free. And then you can see kind of exactly what the structure is. And then you can use tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT and then your own knowledge to come up with your first draft.
Beautiful. You are breaking this down so it is so easy for retailers to walk away. We'll link to that free training too. Everyone needs to go listen to that. Such great resources. I have huge news. The Independent Retailers Association is live. We are so excited to announce that this online community is here to support independent retailers. We believe that it is the independent era. This is your time to shine. You have so many advantages to stand out, to grow customer experience, to get found online, to be a modern retailer that is relevant to today's consumer. And we want to help aid you in all of that, which you'll find on the Independent Retailers Association. Now, we call it IndERA, short for Independent Era. This is your era, and we're here to just amplify that with you and with all the other independent retailers who are inside of our community. So if you want to join us, membership starts as low as just $25 a month to join the community, get access to education, resources done for you, AI training, and more. Head to joinindera.com. That's join, INDERA.com to see the different membership levels and learn about what we are up to. So I would love to see you on the inside and love to help you grow your store. So head on over to joinindera.com and let's get back to the episode. Okay, Gloria, what's the best way to pitch local media and drive actual foot traffic to your store?
I love local media because no one loves the hometown story. Like, there's nothing better than that, right? And so how do you actually get onto the radar? And I actually think that local press is some of the easiest press because it's as simple as picking up the phone and dialing the actual newsroom producer. And I've actually done this with a lot of clients, and all of them are so nice because they want to feature local things. But here's what you need to know. You need to know, what is your local angle? Like, do you have a charity or a give back component? And also, like, do you have 1 to 3 minutes of visual television that you can give them? So when you're talking about local TV, I'm not talking about local radio, but local TV, what kind of visuals can you give them? If you have B-roll, if you make flowers, if you're making a cake, like, that's good B-roll. So you want to pitch the producer not only about why you're making an impact in local communities, but the visual for the producer to understand, okay, this is what the actual 3 minutes will look like. And so that's what we need to pitch them. If you are going to pitch them, is needs to have at least 1 to 3 minutes of visually stimulating and not just them sitting there interviewing you on camera. That's not going to be the best use of those 3 minutes.
I love it. Picking up the phone, the power of the phone, right? I did another podcast interview last week with a guest, and that was one of his tips of just so many people aren't picking up the phone anymore. And you can just save so much time if you just call, yeah.
Perplexity too. I've actually, for the macaroon lady in Vermont, I literally just asked Perplexity, like, what are the local news stations in her area in Vermont? And then it kind of gives you, and this is public information, right? It gives you the news desk. And I understand that it's kind of terrifying to call, but these people, they're normal people. They're not going to bite, and you're not actually selling them anything. You're actually doing them a favor. So it should actually be less intimidating than the customers who walk through your door. So just think about it that way.
Yes. Okay. Great tip. Awesome. Now, you were talking about seasonal and timely and really focusing there from the PR angles. So how can retailers start pitching right now? Like, what would you recommend? This is going to drop in June. So, kind of what does that look like for them?
I would say in terms of timeline, if you're talking about digital, which gives you that SEO, it's usually you want to pitch 4 to 6 weeks in advance. But if you're talking about like print, grocery store aisle, where you're like physically holding a magazine, that's usually 6 months out. So we had people get into Oprah's favorite things, and that was usually like 6 months before whatever holiday. But for most of the people that we're talking about here, it's 4 to 6 weeks. Now, for local news, they could have a turnaround time of even just 1 week, right? Because they're like very fast, like they need to be agile. So it just depends on what type of media you're going for. For most people, it's going to be the digital magazines, right? betterhomesandgardens.com, whatever. And so that's usually 4 to 6 weeks. And I will say, like right now, at the time of filming, like we just finished with Mother's Day. We do have some last minute Father's Day things, but summertime is a great time to actually prime for what are your like outdoor activities, like birthday, graduation, bridal, summer travel. And then once we get into August and September, it's an absolutely favorite time for those Halloween angles, for Thanksgiving, for recipes, for winter, cozy, family reunions. And then you want to start to think about your Q4 gift guides, holiday rush season, biggest sales of the year. And there are so many different gift guide categories, from stocking stuffers to esoteric gifts to, whimsical gift. So I think that you should start prepping for those in September or October.
Okay. Man, Gloria, this has been such a good episode. I love this conversation, and our retailers are going to have so much to work with. And anybody that's listening, if you take action and get picked up, because I feel like you're going to, like, you have the framework to really elevate your press, just elevate your press. Let us know in the Facebook group, in the Rooted in Retail Facebook group. If you're not in there yet, search for it. Free to join. It's for listeners. I want to hear about how you're implementing what you're learning from Gloria. Share with us. Okay. Gloria, are you ready for the resilience round?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Best business book.
Oh, okay. So I recently read 10X is Easier Than 2X on a long flight back from Asia, and it like blew my mind. It's really about how do you let go of all the extra fluff in your business and really deliver 10X results for a smaller group of people. And so for me, it's really been doubling down on product, retailers, and anyone who makes a physical product. And it's been absolutely life-changing for my business to be able to focus on this group of people.
Yeah, awesome. Great suggestion. Best retail technology, like an app or software.
Most of my people are using Shopify, and they are really loving it. I think Shopify is a company that is constantly trying to do better and trying to integrate and have more things. So I feel like people are getting pretty good results with Shopify. It's not the cheapest, but I think they're really committed to innovation.
Yeah, I agree. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
Oh, so for my people, it's really important for me to understand their challenges and what's happening. So I actually read certain retail industry trades as well to see what's happening. And also I'm in various Facebook groups.
Okay, awesome. Love it. If you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you do differently?
One thing I do differently is I think that I would try to strategize what is the main priority before just like trying all these different things. I think in the beginning, you're just trying to get as many people through the door as possible. So you're being sold on SEO and website and branding and design and this tool and that tool, and you really kind of don't make any headway anywhere else. But I think that knowing like what is the right problem to solve in this season of business you're in is probably the most powerful tool that's going to unlock success for you.
Well said. Gloria, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
Well, I have to say that, as someone who also has a community of product makers, my heart is hurting for them. I really think that independent retail is really the backbone of our economy, right? There are so many inspiring communities, and we know for a fact that independent retailers pour more into the local economy than big box stores. I have a feeling that things are going to get more challenging before they get better. So that's kind of how I feel. But I know that if we band together, if we just keep being resilient, if we keep innovating and putting customers first, we will get through it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Gloria, this was such a great conversation. Where can people learn more and connect with you?
So definitely watch the free PR masterclass, and it outlines exactly a CPR pitch that got someone featured 12 times. GloriaChowPR.com/masterclass. That's Gloria, CHOUPR.com/masterclass. And I'm on Instagram. I share a lot of things from PR to tips from my relationship, healing my relationship with my mother. So it's very raw and open and honest. I'm on Instagram at Gloria Chow PR. And if you actually DM me the word crystal, I will give you a pitching freebie so that you can get started on your pitch.
Oh, amazing. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Gloria, this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Everyone, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.